Okay, I think we're all on deck. All right, so I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting of council, which is being live streamed and recorded. The voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of the recording. We acknowledge the original custodians of the land on which we're meeting right across this shire. And pay respects to elders past and present, and welcome any descendants who may be watching the meeting this evening. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We're all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Do I have any apologies or leave of absence? Do I have any declarations of conflict of interest?
Yes.
Councillor Goldsworthy.
So at item 11.1, I have a conflict of interest to declare. I have an indirect interest due to conflicting duties.
Okay, thank you, councillor. So you'll be leaving the meeting for that item.
Yes.
And thanks for declaring that. So any condolence motions tonight? No. So the next item is community and council achievements. And I actually just want to spend a little bit of time on this tonight. Firstly, there is a big achievement, which is this is our last meeting for the 4-year term. And so for all of us tonight, staff and councillors alike, this is a pretty momentous event. There are some councillors who are definitely not going to return. Some councillors will stand for election again. Of course, we don't know who will be at the table at the next, in the chamber, if you like, at the next term of council. And I know some councillors are putting their hands up again. But there's 2 councillors who have been with us now for a long time who will not be returning. The first one is Barb Murdoch, who has been with Indigo Shire now for 15 years as a councillor. Barb's been mayor and deputy mayor throughout that time, and has been an incredibly committed representative for her community of Chiltern. Barb's always had a very good vote. She's a very popular councillor. People trust Barb, and at every election have voted for her in large numbers, because I know that people really feel that Barb is there for their best interests and works very, very hard for her community. So, Barb, I want to pay our respects to you. I want to thank you for your many years of service. You're a very dedicated councillor. You come to every meeting, you come to everything that's on, you go to site meetings, you attend many events for the community, and I know you spend a lot of time talking with constituents in your town and across the Shire. I know you also have been a very supportive councillor to the volunteers that you've worked closely with, and you are also a volunteer in many capacities yourself. So, Barb, you're an amazing citizen for Indigo Shire. If we were in the chamber, we'd be giving you some kind of award, and we will do that when we finally get through this horrible pandemic and we're able to honour you in person. I know that whoever the next councillor is, will want to do that. So, Barb, I really want to thank you on behalf of councillors, and I also personally, when I first was elected, you were mayor that year, and you were so supportive to me as a new hopeless councillor that didn't know what I was doing. You gave me lots of support and direction, and you've always been a great support on a personal level as well. And I know that that's for across the board, Barb. So thank you, and our best wishes to you for your future. And I just wonder if there's anything you'd like to say at this point.
Well, I'm usually a person of lots of words, but I'm just very thankful to the community for all the help and for putting me into council, which was fantastic. I've always been, really a Chiltern person. I've lived there, I've worked there. We had the supermarket for years, and it is a fantastic community. But then, once I joined council, once I got onto council, I found out there was a whole area that was pretty similar to Chiltern, and like the whole area of Indigo. And consequently have been on the council for quite some time. But it has been an absolute pleasure. I have worked with many of the Indigo Shire staff. Many of them are still here. I think they were there when I began, and they're still here now. And they've been fantastic. So I want to thank them for all the help that they have given me over the time. And I was going to embarrass Sophie, but I can remember nursing her as a baby, and I'm so proud of her and the way she has grown up. And here we are, both on together now. Sorry, Sophie, but I couldn't resist that one. But to all of you, Bernie, who I've been on council with for a long time, we've always grumped at each other quite a lot, but it's been great. And the staff are magnificent. They work very hard. They don't often get the accolades that they should get, but thank you very much, because you make the councillors look much better than we probably are. So that's it. I could go on for hours, but I won't.
Okay, Barb, thank you. And do anyone else like to add some words to Barb? Like, I know some of you have had long association with Barb. Bernie?
Barb and I have worked together for 12 years. We haven't always agreed, but I always knew that Barb would always talk up and act for the best interests of her community and for the Shire. We worked as mayor and deputy mayor for at least 1 year, if not 2, and Barb was always there, one of the hardest workers that this council's ever had, and she'll be sadly missed.
Yes. Yeah, here. Yes. Deputy Mayor Sophie Price, who she used to cuddle.
Ditto with everything that's just been said, but I think that if you had told me as a little girl that Barb Murdoch at some stage wouldn't be on council, that I wouldn't quite have believed that council could go on without you, Barb. So to the little kids in Chiltern, yes, council will go on, but I think you do represent council to all the generations. And I think that for you to go out after so many of the priorities of the Chiltern placemaking have been achieved, that's the feather in your cap, Barb.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Larry?
So I've had the fortune of sharing 8 years on council with Barb. I can say that she's a very strong advocate for Chiltern and the surrounding area. I think sometimes that's underestimated. And I only hope that the current government continue to take our phone calls, because she's been a very strong connection to the Labor Party.
Absolutely. Yes. Opened many a door for council. Okay. Is anyone else? I'm Diane.
It's been wonderful having 4 women. I've got a comment on that, on council. Like, we have had cozy times together. Sorry, men. And we're going to miss you. We're going to miss you, Barb, because you really are the matriarch of the council, and you really have smoothed the waters for us to come on. So thank you very much. My only issue is you haven't fixed that spring in the main street yet.
Oh.
I don't know if you can leave until that's fixed.
It was there when I got on council.
You better get a bag of cement out, Barb. Barb, thank you. And I know that right across the Shire, people are wishing you well tonight and into the future. And I know that we won't not see you again, but yeah, it's a big moment tonight. Which brings me to Councillor Trenery, James. So James has been an Indigo Shire councillor now for 8 years. He was mayor in, was it 2015-16, James, I think, if I got that right. Again, James has been a really strong advocate for his community, not just Yakandanda, of course, but right across the Shire. And I think, James, you and I have got quite a history there, and I'm really, really happy that we've been able to work through differences, really strong differences of opinion at times, work collaboratively as this council really does try to do, and come together for the good of our community, and also on a personal level. Like, I think we've been able to, build a really great relationship, and I'm sorry that you're not standing again. And I will miss working with you, and I wish you absolutely all the best. I also thank Amanda and Harrison and Georgia for their commitment too, because it's a big toll on our families being on council. and I know they've been really supportive to you throughout. So good luck to you and your family, James, into the future, and thank you for your work and your commitment to council and to the community. So again, anyone else would like to speak to James? And James, before they do, is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, first of all, I sort of reserved my right to talk about Barb. So since I wasn't the only one, I was the only one who didn't speak. But
Sorry.
Barb Murdoch. No, that was, I didn't put my hand up. So that was a deliberate act. So I'll just talk about Barb first of all, if I could. But Barb Murdoch, who is from one side of politics opposite to me, and I think this highlights how good councils can be. Barb Murdoch, in my first year, was nominated for mayor, and I was the one that nominated Barb Murdoch for mayor. And when I became mayor, Barb Murdoch nominated me for mayor. So the politics doesn't, the issues are more important than the politics. And I think Barb was a great leader in that respect. She certainly was a mentor for me in those early days. Both and her recall and her information that she had and the experience that she had, whether it be on finance or other issues or things that have happened in the past, was absolutely valuable to me. So, Barb, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, James. It's been fun working with you all, and it's been really fun with you because you're always happy. Always happy and always willing to let me know how it is and what I should know.
I'm going to miss the 3-hour trips down to Melbourne talking about politics too, Barb. So we might have to do it again just for the sake of reunion. But on my behalf, I'd just really like to thank all involved. I'm consistent. I didn't write anything down, so if I miss anything, I apologise. But I still remember great things on council. I still remember Don Chambers standing up, the late Don Chambers standing up and making a statement, which I found absolutely fascinating every time, and the way he handled it and the things that we learnt from Don. And, I've had probably disagreements with just about every councillor on here. I've also worked with just about every councillor. Well, I have worked with every councillor on here. And it's amazing how things get repaired because we're focused on issues, we're focused on what's good for our community. And I think we've come together as a group to do that on more occasions than not. And to the staff, I've seen, I think 3 CEOs in my time. I've seen some hugely dedicated people to Indigo Shire and the people of Indigo Shire. And yes, they get paid for it, but I mean, to have a passion about what you do and achieve what you do, it's a competitive industry. It really is. And the only way we achieve things is having staff who are putting Indigo Shire first and work hard for the people of Indigo Shire. It has really been an absolute pleasure to see things happen. I joined council to get a rail trail going 8 years ago, and as much as council all should take some success from that, it certainly wouldn't have happened without the staff being behind it and the staff working hard and dealing with both other local governments and state governments and federal governments. We had to get money from federal governments to start off with. So all that's done behind the scenes, and we stand up and take credit for it, which we're all pretty good at. But there's and so we should. We worked hard ourselves. But, that all comes about from staff hard work. So I won't go on too long, but I thank the individual councillors. I mean, like I said, Bernie and I were at each other's throat for about 2 years, I think, when we met. And I had a phone call from Councillor Croucher, who thought it was the funniest thing he's ever seen that you and I get on so well now. But I've been opposed to, as I said, ideologically opposed to all members at one stage, all councillors at one stage, but also agreed with them on proper issues. So I just thank everyone. I'll just let people know that I'm not jumping off council for any other reason other than I'm moving, so out of the Shire, although I'll probably have property here. I think you should be in the Shire and representing the Shire. So that's the reason why I'm moving. But I thank everyone that's here. I thank the councillors from the past and the staff from the past as well. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Would anyone else like to say their farewells to James? Yeah, Bernie.
I'd just like to say that James is no shrinking violet. He has principles that he stood by. He's a man of conviction. He and I didn't see eye to eye on a number of issues, and people have said, in fact, a senior member of staff said, never thought that you and James would become friendly, but boy, you have. And it's interesting to say that some of the community have said that the last 3 or 4 months have been James's best. And I'm not saying that because he and I have agreed, but a man of principle, a man who stuck to his guns, and I congratulate him, and he'll be missed on this council.
Absolutely. Barb.
Yeah, I'd like to say the same about James. I mean, the one thing that I really take with me from James is his happy nature. He's always smiling and always
Fantastic.
got some sort of joke to give you to come back at you with. And you need that sort of thing in a council, because, you know, what we're doing is pretty serious business. And sometimes you need that lighthearted. And I'm not saying that he doesn't do pretty serious business. He does.
Sure.
He's been excellent. But yeah, he's just been a pleasure to work with, as, may I add, all of the councillors have.
Okay, and Councillor Shepherd.
Oh, I just wanted to quickly, James, I first met you, I think, in your capacity as mayor on the Indigo Valley Barnawatha Fire Recovery Committee, which was a fiery committee, pardon the pun. And we didn't really want a lot to do with council. And I think you just did a great job in making, like, I remember someone saying about terms of reference, and we said, we don't want terms of reference, but you were quite skilled at being able to get the community and the council staff and all the other different groups that were there talking together, and you were smiling, and you were someone who could listen and talk to people outside of that space and get everyone working together. And I was impressed, and I've been impressed with since I've come on council too, sitting right next to you, having vitamin Bs together. I think we've done a great job over on the left side of the council of the chamber. Yeah, but congratulations on your term, and good luck in your move.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go Councillor Goldsworthy, Councillor Price, and then CEO. Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to say to James, thank you for your service, mate. I supported you back 8 years ago when you first ran for council. You did a great job during the Indigo fires and as mayor. And apart from the climate issue, which I hope you're right on, but I suspect you're not, I really do appreciate your service. So thank you.
Okay, and Sophie.
Yeah, ditto with everything that's been said. But for me, I think what I've learned from you most over this council is seeing you raise the profile of the Access Committee. I think that's been one of your real strengths, and you never at any moment let us forget about the volunteers, and you really make sure that they're mentioned at every opportunity. So well done, and we will miss you some days, and some days we won't.
And I think CEO wants to say something.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I like that last statement of Sophie's. I feel compelled on behalf of staff. Some lovely things have been said about staff, and that just reflects on both of you, Barb and James. You've always treated staff with support and respect all the way through, and we all really appreciate that. Wish you both very much all the best. You did mention politics, and it's interesting, council. There's someone of every colour on this council, but we've all worked together well, so that's been great. Wish you both the best, and to all other councillors too, those that don't come back for other reasons, political reasons, electoral reasons. I wish you all the best as well, and thank you, and for all your support from behalf of staff. It's been well appreciated.
Okay. All right. So, as they say, let's get into it, and I'll see you at the other end of this meeting, everyone. We've got a pile of work to get through. So item number 7 is confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have someone to move that council confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 25th of August as published on the website, confirm the minutes of the confidential session held on the 25th of August as distributed separately, and confirm the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 8th of September 2020, also on the website. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Price. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Murdoch. Councillor Price, do you need to speak to this motion? No. Councillor Murdoch? Anyone else? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thanks, councillors. Carried. Item 7.1 is suspension of standing orders regarding open forum. The standing orders be suspended to allow open forum to be brought forward in the agenda to this next item, 7.2, and the Mayor to read questions to open forum on behalf of the questioner without the requirement that the questioner or their representative be present at the meeting for obvious reasons that we're not in the chamber. Do I have someone to move that? Thanks, Councillor Shepherd. Seconder? Councillor Price. Okay, anyone need to speak to this motion? I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. All right, so the next item is open forum. As far as I'm aware, I only have questions from one person. I'll just check in with the Secretariat. Kath, is there no one else has submitted questions tonight? Okay, so I have two questions here from Robin McLeish. The question number one is the decision as to whether the council should obtain a liquor licence to sell alcohol in our tourist information centres has become an issue between profits and our ethical and community health standards. Will council delay a decision on this item until they obtain an accurate financial statement prepared by a professionally qualified member of our finance department to allow us to determine the value of our councillors' place our councillors place on our community standards? Okay, I guess the answer to that is that it is coming to council tonight. I mean, councillors may choose to defer the motion, but at this stage it is on the agenda for decision. And then the second question is, when the vote on the decision to sell alcohol in our visitor information centre is taken, will the Mayor ask for a division and have each councillor's vote placed on record? I won't ask for a division for the pure reason that now under our new rules, our vote is always recorded on the record. So all councillors' vote is now recorded for every motion. So I won't need to call for a division, and yes, the votes will be recorded. So that's all I have from Mr. McLeish. Thank you, Robin, and thank you for your contributions throughout this term. You do absolutely hold us to account, as you should, and while we may not always give the answers you want, it is always really good that we get questions from the community raising the issues that are of importance to them. So thank you, Robin. And I'm going to move that I'm going to ask that the standing orders be resumed. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Shepherd. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Price. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. All right, so item 8, is there any business arising from the previous meetings? No. There are no petitions, so we're moving to item 10.1 under planning and corporate services. So the recommendation is that council accepts the August 2020 finance report. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Gaffney. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Murdoch. Councillor Gaffney. And you're on mute. Famous
Thank you,
word.
Madam Mayor. That report shows that there's a $465,000 unfavourable year to date within Buller gas sales because of the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and has led to charged operating conditions on Mount Buller. The offset is favourable variance in the cost of gas purchased. As such, the overall net unfavourable impact is $28,000.
Okay.
The cash position is similar to that of last year. We are concerned that when all of the costs are put in place, unless we get a very good June next year, that Buller gas profit, which is between $500,000 and $600,000, will be severely impacted.
Thanks, Councillor. Yes, the COVID impact on the skiing industry was absolutely catastrophic in this year, and that was one indicator of that is the gas sales. Are there any other people that wish to speak to that motion? Okay, I'm going to put the motion. Although, Councillor Murdoch, do you wish to speak? Sorry, as the second.
No, I think that Councillor Gaffney has sort of said it well. Is that yes, we have had a problem with the gas sales, and hopefully the weather changes next year and we get a good season and we make a better profit on it, because it has been a good asset for the Shire.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion, to the August 2020 finance report? I'm going to put the motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 10.2 is in principle adoption of council's annual performance statement and financial statements. So the recommendation is that council, pursuant to section 132 of the Local Government Act 1989, approves in principle the 2019-20 performance statement and financial statements, and nominates, in accordance with section 1325 of the Local Government Act, 3 councillors as signatories, with authorisation given for any 2 of the nominated 3 councillors to certify the 2019-2020 performance statement and financial statements, along with the CEO and Principal Accounting Officer, in their final form after any changes recommended or agreed to by the auditor have been made. So that process is underway. We now need the 3 councillors. Can I have the 3 councillors named? We actually discussed this earlier, so I'm quite happy to name the Councillor Gaffney, Councillor Trenery and Councillor Murdoch. You were interested earlier, and these are our 3 representatives from our Finance Committee. So thank you, councillors, for your work on that committee too throughout the year. Do I have someone to move the recommendation that those 3 councillors be approved? Councillor Gaffney, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Gaffney, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, I do. I was present when the Finance Committee discussed this with the Chief Financial Officer, the CEO and the Director of Finance for an hour and a half last Thursday. I was also present when the Audit Committee spent considerable amount of time going through these documents in the presence of a representative of the Victoria Auditor General. Both of those committees endorse those documents. I would like to add that the representative of the Victorian Auditor General gave so much praise to the Chief Financial Officer, Phil Garoni, on his presentation of reports and his cooperation with that person, and compared us with surrounding councils. And I won't go through, but it was very praiseworthy. So I'd certainly like to thank him and his director, Greg Pinkerton. The documents were almost voluminous, but they were very good, and I recommend the adoption of those documents.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd, a seconder, do you wish to speak to this?
I attended both of those meetings as well, and they were fully endorsed by the people attending, and I'm also confident in seconding this motion.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? No. Yes, Councillor Trenery.
I'd just like to first of all thank the Finance Committee members we got this report fairly late because that was the circumstances. The information was only available late to the staff and therefore late to us, and they worked really hard to go through it line by line. And as Councillor Gaffney said, we spent an hour and a half talking to Director Pinkerton, the CEO, as well as Phil Garoni, the Finance and Risk Manager, and they had all the answers that we needed. As I said, it was an in-depth conversation, and I'd just like to thank the Finance Committee, and I certainly have confidence in the end result in this motion.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Gaffney, do you wish to sum up?
No, that's fine. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so back to the right page here. Sorry, we're everywhere. 10.3. Am I up to 10.3? I think I'm up to, yes, I am. 10.3, the Borrowing and Investment Policy 2020. So the recommendation is that Council adopts the attached borrowing and investment policy 2020 and permits WAW Credit Union as an approved financial institution with a limit of $500,000 for funds invested at any one time. Do I have someone to move this?
Yeah, I'd like to move a slight amendment to the recommendation and have a motion that speaks to a limit of $1 million for funds invested at any one time.
Do I have anyone to second that amendment? Councillor Gaffney. Okay, so I've got Councillor Goldsworthy moving, Councillor Gaffney seconding. Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. Look, I'll speak primarily to point 2 because I feel that the first point, which is adopting the borrowing investment policy, is relatively straightforward. Councillor Gaffney made some recommendations which have been adhered to. My recommendation in relation to the $1 million limit is that given over the last 3 to 4 years, Council has invested about that amount with WAW. There hasn't been any issues. The interest that they provide is commensurate with other institutions in which we invest the money. During their 2019 annual report, they stated they had a profit of $1 million, so they're financially viable. The net loans and advances for the year have increased in that year was $38 million to overall having loans out at $389 million. Deposits increased during the same time by $30 million to $456 million. So it's a significant institution. They're well regulated. They have equity during the year has increased by $2.7 million to $32 million. Former senior manager at the Shire, Fiona Shanks, is a director of the business. Ross Kearney, who's just joined our audit committee, who's in a senior management position with WAW. They have strong sponsorship of the Kerr Federation. They have 3 branches in the Indigo Shire, namely the Chiltern, Yackandandah and Beechworth branches. The Beechworth Credit Union was one of 4 founding credit unions in the formation of WAW. There is a strong history. They have supported us, we have supported them, and I believe we should continue to do so.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gaffney.
I'd just like to mention that in the policy, under policy details, it mentions Council will use financial institutions that demonstrate a positive commitment within the region. And point 2, in recognising Council's buy local approach, local providers will be encouraged to bid for financial service provision, which Councillor Goldsworthy has spoken to very well. I won't ask this as a question, but I'll certainly make it as a comment that that Council has invested $1 million into Rabobank, which is owned by Rabobank UA, which is a Netherlands-based financial service provider. So it's not listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. It's certainly not a local bank. I know it certainly supports agriculture within Australia, but for us to invest in a foreign bank might need to be looked at.
Okay, so you've introduced another item in there, Councillor, but nevertheless, we're going to stick with, it's okay, I'm just saying, you know, the issue is WAW and their and the $1 million that Councillor Goldsworthy has recommended and that you've seconded, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Shepherd.
I'm not speaking to it. I'm just, I want to ask about it.
You want to ask? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this policy says that we are going to have Standards and Poor rating of B and above. But this WAW isn't rated by Standards and Poor. So so it really is an anomaly. It doesn't fit into this policy. And I just need, I suppose, some more, I need someone to give me more backing that with $1 million and it hasn't got a Standards and Poor rating, what sort of rating what sort of assessment, what sort of risk are we taking? I understand, as you said, that link and that tie and that fundamental, belief in WAW. But in terms of, is someone able to just give me that verification that it might not be standards and poor, but we're going to accept, if we accept this, we're accepting an anomaly outside of our policy. So what can you give me that will and the community, that they will feel confident in that money being invested and it's being safe?
So, Councillor, are you happy for me to direct that through to the CEO, who may then involve Director Pinkerton? But I know there was some other form of validation that was sought through WAW. CEO?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Being a building society, they don't usually have a need for credit ratings. So we did seek an alternate, or we did seek some assurances and some, I guess, a letter confirming what assurances they can provide as to their probity and things like that and their safety. So I will throw to Director Pinkerton to give some more detail on that particular document that they've provided us.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. We did write to them and they wrote back. Essentially, they don't have a particular rating, and that's basically because they don't access the wholesale financial market. There's no requirement to do that, and it is an expensive exercise to get rated. So they highlighted a couple of things in their response, which I've circulated to councillors. Mainly around the regulation of the industry. So they're regulated by APRA, like all financial institutions, and also pointed out that at least a portion of the investment, up to $250,000, is covered by the Australian government guarantee. So that first portion is safe. It's only above that is at risk, for want of a better term. Beyond that, I probably can't add much more to what Councillor Goldsworthy had said. Certainly their balance sheet looks good, their liquidity looks good, the ratios of loans with a percentage lower than 80% it looks good, but these are all just things that we've looked at from a staff perspective. As far as an independent rating agency, there isn't one to point to, and so this recommendation came from a balance of both the financial risk weighed up with the procurement policy preference for doing business with suppliers that do provide benefit to the local community.
Okay. Councillor Shepherd, do you have any follow-up questions on that? Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion before I go back to Councillor Goldsworthy? Yeah, Councillor Price.
Just to say that we did previously have a borrowings policy. The investment policy part of this motion is new and is something that's come out of the audit committee, a recommendation that came from them. And I would support what Councillor Goldsworthy has said about WAW, but also note the concerns that Councillor Shepherd has with just how we understand the risk without being able to put them into the framework that we're passing tonight.
Okay. All right. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll hand back to Councillor Goldsworthy to sum up.
Yeah, just to say that they are strongly regulated by APRA. They do have an audit risk manager who happens to be on our audit committee now, Ross Kearney. I have every confidence that if there were issues, we'd know about it well before the expiry of any deposit that we had with them. And there's nothing to say, given our scope of future works, that we'll be investing that much money with them into the future. But I think it would be a good show of support to say locally we can invest up to $1 million like we have for the last 4 years without too much risk.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Okay, anyone against? No. Okay, that's okay, Barb.
Yeah, no, I was watching the
Carried
screen.
unanimously. Thank you, councillors. All right, so item 10.4 is planning permit application 190070 at 275 at 275 Yakandanda Road, Yakandanda. So, councillors, there is a recommendation that this application be approved. At this stage, we've also been advised that that the one objection has been removed, and that there's been amendments made to this that have been approved by the planning department. So we could in fact refer this back to staff, but I think councillors felt that because it was on the agenda, we would continue to discuss it in public. So Councillor Goldsworthy.
I'm happy to move the recommendation as a motion as it stands, less the last 8 words or so,
Yep.
which after attachment 2, if there's a full stop, and we get rid of and issues a notice of decision to approve a permit.
That's no longer required.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, councillor. So that's Councillor Goldsworthy moves it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Price is seconding it. Okay, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Look, just briefly, the applicant has changed their application to reduce the numbers to 150. The objector has removed their objection. As stated earlier, this could easily be handled by staff now. It's on the agenda. I'm happy to support it as it stands. With the condition.
Thank you. Councillor Price?
I'd just say that this is a very thorough application. There's it doesn't leave us with any guesswork. We can see exactly what's planned for this site and how it might work, and that leaves us with a very easy decision to make, and that's partly, I think, credit to why the objection was withdrawn. Councillors have also had a site visit to understand in practical terms how all of this site would work, and that further helped us to have a good level of understanding of how this would be a good use on this site.
Thanks, councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? No. Okay. Well, then I will put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 10.5 is another planning permit application, PP 190278, subdivision of land at 46 Oak Avenue, Beechworth, which is at Mayday Hills. The recommendation is that council approve PP 190278 for the subdivision of land at 46 Oak Avenue, Beechworth into 30 lots, subject to the conditions which are included in attachment 1, and issues a notice of decision to grant a planning permit. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Gaffney. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldsworthy. Councillor Gaffney, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The proposed subdivision is generally acceptable, subject to conditions to be placed on any permit that may be granted. The future use of the site for housing is encouraged by the planning scheme, and the proposal adds to the diversity of housing options available within the Shire. The additional residents will add to the economic activity in Beechworth and surrounding area and ensure that more efficient use is made of social and development infrastructure in the town. I'd also like to mention that there was only one objection that has been answered by the planning, that has been addressed by the planning department. North East Water had no objection with no conditions. The CFA had no objection subject to conditions. SP AusNet, no objection subject to conditions. I recommend this to council.
Thanks, councillor. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Yes, we've addressed this site previously, and I much prefer this option as to that which was previously proposed. It sits with the character of the area. I only hope that it is used primarily for housing and not any other use as permitted under the multi-use zone. There are significant conditions which will need to be complied with. My expectation is that that would be fully complied with prior to the applicant being able to issue title for any of these lots. and hopefully it does develop into a nice area up there. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Trenery.
This is thank you. This has been going on for quite some time to actually get some sort of resolution. I congratulate both the staff and the developer. It needed to be developed. It's good. It's great for Beechworth. It's a great opportunity for Beechworth to increase its availability of this sort of development. And so I wish everyone all the best of luck into the future.
Thanks, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Gaffney, do you wish to sum up?
Just to say that it's a beautiful part of this Shire at Mayday Hills, and it would be a lovely place to live.
Okay, thank you, councillors. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? And it's carried. Thanks, councillors. Okay. 10.6, planning permit application for 12 Kirby Flat Road, Yakandanda. So this is application PP 180074. The recommendation is that council approves this application for the subdivision of the land into 11 lots and the removal of native vegetation at 12 Kirby Flat Road, Yakandanda, subject to the conditions included at attachment 1, and issues a notice of decision to grant a planning permit. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Shepherd. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldsworthy. Councillor Shepherd, you wish to speak to the motion?
I do. It was a while ago that we had a focus meeting. Probably 2 years ago now, and there were many submissions, and I think the staff I want to congratulate the staff because I think they've worked really quite hard with the submissions that were of objections that were put in, and most of them have been covered. There are a couple of, I know that people were still really concerned about the koala habitat that has happened there, and I've been seeking what we can do about koala habitat. The fact that the large trees are going to be retained there by getting rid of the extra lot, I think is great. But I'm still open for discussing what we can do. As we're very aware, there's been a lot of discussion recently about the koala habitat, and the fact that the community there are very, they see it as an important habitat. I think somehow there's some way we've got to talk about how we can protect that, even if it's just something that's written down as from a community angle. But I haven't been able to, and neither have the staff been able to find how we can change that. So sorry that we haven't really been able to work on that one. And the stormwater was another issue, and that's one of the conditions. And I was assured that the stormwater will be run off into the 2 dams, and the rest of it will be use the stormwater that's already there, infrastructure that's already there. So the only other thing, of course, and I'd like to ask the infrastructure department, there's the plan that's been around for a long time of having an access path through to the sports park, and I just wouldn't mind knowing at some stage what's happening with that, and I think the community there would like to know how long that's going to take.
So, Council, would you like the Director Ian Ellett to just give you a brief update on that now?
Yeah, I think the community, with me passing this, with me moving this, I think they want to hear what are the plans for that space.
Sure. Okay. So, well, the CEO is first point of call, but I assume that you're going to ask Director Ian Ellett. Okay, let's go straight to you then, Director Ellett.
Thank you. Look, I probably can't shed any light tonight. I mean, I'll take the question on notice. I know it's something that's been under investigation, so we'll take on to follow that up and provide some advice as to where that's headed. But look, I don't have any detail tonight to share.
Okay. And I think, Councillor Shepherd, what you're saying is you want to make sure the community actually knows about that. So Okay, we'll make sure that that is part of the follow-up. And Councillor Goldsworthy as a seconder.
Look, it's never easy to subdivide land where people have been living for a while. They've got their what they consider their residential amenity, and they don't want to see land divvied up so those others will move in. Certainly there's been some development around Yackandandah, and there continues to be, and I can understand where people just want things to remain stagnant. Unfortunately, for those, this is allowable. It's a application that has certain conditions on it to try and accommodate those that objected to it. And I can only hope that it turns out to be one that, on the balance of probabilities, is better for the community than not.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Trenery and then Councillor Price.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate everyone involved. There was a lot of objections. I know I received a lot of phone calls, and I'm sure others received many phone calls. And I think with the developer and the staff, they've probably allayed a lot of those fears, hopefully. They did a lot of good work to get to a result. It's important. These are large blocks. They're really good for Yackandandah. There's not a development that's tiny blocks that are trying to make money rather than keep to the spirit of that area. There's obviously blocks there that are about that size now. I think one of the best things about this is the developer himself planted a lot of those trees and put in a lot of those habitats himself with scout groups and things like that in the past. And I'm really glad to see he hasn't been penalised for that, because that could have been quite concerning with other people that might wish to plant things on their property and increase the native plantings on their property. So I'm glad there's been a positive result.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Price.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the conversation about planning and development in Yackandandah has been one that we've had this whole term between the community of Yackandandah and our staff. So it's really good to see recommendations like this come through where there has been some real cooperation between our staff and the community to arrive at a reasonable outcome. And I just think that's really good to see.
Yep, thanks. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gaffney. You're on mute.
The Planning Department of Indigo Shire made some insistence that sewerage be connected to this subdivision, and I think the surrounding residents will also be supported with that. I think that's quite noteworthy.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else wish to speak to this? Okay, I'll go back to Councillor Shepherd to sum up.
Oh, my summing is, look, as one, I think Councillor Goldsworthy said, it's probably you prefer not to have subdivision around you, but I think the fact that people have that have worked with the community, the staff have worked with the community to get a better outcome, I think it is certainly good to see, and so I probably won't be thanked for passing it, but I understand that development is happening there, and I really appreciate when community and staff work together. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, councillors. All right, well, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. Item 10.7 is the Assembly of Councillor Records. The recommendation is that Council accepts the attached Assembly of Councillor Records. Do I have someone to move that? I've got a Councillor Trenery as a mover, and I've got Councillor Shepherd as a seconder. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor? Yeah, Councillor Trenery.
Yeah, if I could, I'd just like to, probably being the final meeting, and there's a few listed on here. I know there's others down later on, but the Finance Committee is listed here. I'd just like to thank, I've been on the Finance Committee for 7 of the 8 years. I've been on council, and I was chair again this year. And we had a meeting very regularly. I did miss one that was filled in by Councillor Gaffney for me, but both Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Murdoch were on that and worked really hard, went through a lot of different issues. We kept all and sundry accountable fairly persistently on some occasions, but it was still a very honest and polite way of going about it. But I thank everyone that was involved. Huge amount of work this year, so I congratulate Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Murdoch.
Thanks, Councillor Trenery. Yes, Councillor Shepherd, do you want to say anything as a seconder? All right, Councillor Gaffney. You're on mute.
Thank you.
I have a little sign.
I hope you don't have to ask me again. I'll put 5 cents in the jar. This is not because of what Councillor Trenery said, but he chaired that finance committee with vigour, very cooperatively, made us get up very early in the morning before Councillor Murdoch had gone for her walk, and just did a great thing. And it's councillor's job to make sure that everything's held to account. And I'd just like to congratulate him on his thoroughness and his fairness, and the way that he chaired that committee was complimentary. And it was good to see other councillors joining in from time to time. It was good, but he did a great job. Okay,
thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the Assembly of Councillor record motion? Councillor Trenery, do you wish to sum up? Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? I can't see no one's against. Terrific. Thank you. Carried unanimously. All right, so item 11.1, we're moving to community and economic development. Item 11.
This is where I need to declare my conflict of interest.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Councillor.
Indirect conflict of interest due to conflicting duty.
Okay, so
I've previously given the CEO a written explanation of that conflict.
Thanks, Councillor. Administrator, can I get you to remove Councillor Goldsworthy and pop him into a special place till we come back? And Councillor Price, I'm going to ask you to remind me to make sure that I get Councillor Goldsworthy back, because I forget when people are out of sight. Out of sight is out of mind on Zoom. Councillor Gaffney.
That's right, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an alternate motion to item 11.1.
Yeah. Okay.
The motion is that Indigo Shire Council does not support any application to the Commission for Gambling and Liquor Regulation for any liquor licence to conduct wine sales at the Rutherglen Visitor Information Centre.
Okay, does not support. Kath, Administrator Kath, have you got that motion? Do you need Councillor Gaffney to repeat that? Okay, can you just repeat it just to make sure that we've got the right wording, so that Indigo Shire Council does not support
any application.
Yep.
To the Commission for Gambling.
Yeah.
And Liquor Regulation.
Yep.
For any liquor licence.
For any liquor licence.
To conduct wine sales.
Yep.
At the Rutherglen Visitor Information Centre.
At the Rutherglen VIC. Okay, have you got that now? Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Price? So, Councillor Price, 2. Okay, Councillor Gaffney, if you could speak to the motion, please.
The way that I see it, the Indigo Shire Council is the councillors, not the staff or the CEO. Therefore, the councillors would be the persons to hold the liquor licence. I have no interest in entering the booze industry, thank you. Although it's implied in this report that the Shire and its councillors on the Rutherglen Wine Centre board have been aligned with the sale of liquor, They have always stayed at arm's length from the sale or serving of alcohol at the Rutherglen Visitor Information Centre. The Shire Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan indicates that Indigo Shire ranks above the state average when it comes to drinking at a level that puts residents at risk. I don't believe that we as a council should add to that.
Is that it, Councillor?
Yes, and what I'm saying is, if Indigo Shire Council applied for a licence, the councillors would be held responsible. There would also have to be a person on the premises in effective control, and that would be a member of Indigo Shire staff, which I think causes further issues.
Okay. Councillor Price, as seconder, do you wish to speak as seconder?
I'll reserve my right.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? I've got Councillor Shepherd and then Councillor Murdoch. Councillor Shepherd.
I agree with the motion, probably for a different reason. One of the things that's said here is that for at least a decade, wine has been sold at Rutherglen, and just because it's been sold there for 10 years, we are now taking over that space, and I think it gives us an opportunity to look at this issue, which I think that the community, as Councillor Gaffney has said, really, the community and councillors have some concern around supporting the sale of wine as a council. So I'm not necessarily for it or against it. I just think there needs to be a bigger discussion than just one motion around what happens at that VIC. As part of our destination game changer, the tourism strategy, it says that, we need to arc up our VICs. We need to make them places that people want to visit. We want great things to happen there. I would like to see that discussion happen first. And if somehow wine fits into that, or the winery, or selling of wine, or the wine makers are part of that, then that's great. But at the moment, I can't see what the reason is. So so I support this motion.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Murdoch, you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, no,
Henry.
Am I switched on? Yeah. Well, I was around when this motion was first mooted to have the wine centre opened, and that they were going to sell wine from the local area so that they could help to promote the local businesses in the area, the wineries. I'm not totally happy with just doing this without possibly consulting with the winemakers. They may have a better proposition to help, because the wine is Rutherglen. That's where everybody comes, and us sort of saying, well, we're not going to allow it to be sold in the Visitor Information Centre, which has happened for at least the last 10 years. It's also the winemakers provide a huge employment area in Rutherglen, and support of sensible and drinking. I think that's a positive thing, but negatively is if people just got there and just drank. They only sip to actually decide whether they want to buy something. But I would prefer this to be deferred off so that there could be more discussion with the winemakers of Rutherglen into what they feel about it, because they are a huge business there, and we're just, in this case, saying to them that, the opportunity to promote their wines or to at least highlight their wines is going to be taken away.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Trenery.
Just like to make a few points. Is Indigo Shire should not be selling wine. I totally agree with that. There has been issues in community with alcohol. There is other ways of supporting the wine industry and promoting sales of wine rather than taking on the responsibility of actually selling bottles of wine to people. It's unfortunate that we're not going to, nor will we ever, in my opinion, have the revenue from this, which is going to mean that the VIC is going to cost the ratepayers a considerable amount of money. But I totally agree with the statements that have been made. We should not be selling wine.
Okay, so Councillor Price, do you wish to speak now as the seconder? Yes.
This item came to us.
We've lost you. You're back. Don't do that to me, Councillor.
It took my phone as well. Sorry about that. This item first came to us after Destination Rutherglen decided that they would not continue on and handed back the running of the VIC to council. And so the original motion at the last meeting was about an interim arrangement, and we sought to defer this part of the motion. I can't support the sale of wine at the VIC as an interim arrangement, because I think that now is the appropriate time for us to have a really good look at what we do at that site beyond our core business. Our core business is the VIC. And I think that if we start to pick off pieces that we might do on top of the core business running the VIC and make decisions about them without having a broader conversation, a more strategic conversation about what should take place on that site, then we may end up with the same criticism that we've faced recently about how difficult this arrangement has been between Destination Rutherglen, the wine board and the winemakers. And I think that given the opportunity that we have now taking this back in under council's banner to run it, we really need to make sure that it's a very clear understanding of what occurs on that site, what we provide on that site. I note, similar to Councillor Shepherd, in the Destination Game Changer strategy, we talked about destination visitor information centres, and we talked about Rutherglen being a destination visitor information centre because of the experience that it provides there. I think that experience has been in place for quite a while now, but perhaps needs to be revisited, perhaps built on, or we need another strategy around how we best promote wine through our VIC. So all of that is unresolved for me due to this short time frame of us having to take over the VIC after Destination Rutherglen passed it back to us. I think that it's a discussion that will continue into the next council. We have Rutherglen placemaking coming up. We need to understand what this arrangement looks like going forward for the next 20 years. And I think that's a discussion that shouldn't just be here amongst us as council. I think that needs to be a discussion with the community, with business, with the wine makers of Rutherglen. So I'll be supporting Councillor Gaffney's motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gaffney, do you wish to sum up?
Yes, I do. Most of the winemakers want tourists to buy wine at their cellar door, not the visitor information centre. Be very certain. There was some against it being sold. They wanted tourists to be directed to their cellar doors, which I'm sure will still happen to the advantage of the winemakers. And I'd just like to make another comment to be very sure that Rutherglen is a lot more than just wine, a lot more. It's got so much to offer. It's got heritage, it's got culture. I think it's just a great town and a great place to live, a great place to work, and a real tourist attraction for this Shire.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Okay, so that's Councillor Gaffney, Councillor Shepherd, Councillor Trenery, Councillor Price. Against, Councillor Murdoch and Councillor O'Connor. Have you got that, Kath? Okay, thank you, councillors.
Just reminding you to invite Larry, Councillor Goldsworthy, back in.
Well done, thank you. Administrator, can we have the missing councillor back in the room? Thanks. Okay. And Councillor Goldsworthy, almost back. Here he is. Great, thank you. Item 11.2, the Lakes and Waterways Activation Plan 2020 to 2030. And the recommendation is that Council adopts the Indigo Shire Council Lake and Waterway Activation Plan 2020 to 30. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Shepherd. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldsworthy. Great. Thanks. Councillor Shepherd.
We received a Sport and Rec Victoria Planning Grant to develop this, and it's really to identify the key lakes and waterways of significance and how we could activate them and improve the infrastructure. And I think this does that, absolutely. And it's been out for a community feedback. We've had 5 submissions. And those submissions have all, many of them being included in the plan. I must say there's one there that says that Indigo University of Third Age suggested access improvement to the Lake Samble walking track. And we've said no changes of the plan. It will go to the Lake Samble improvement, to the Lake Samble track project. But it absolutely is in this plan, the improvement of access around Lake Samble. So, I'm not sure why that says that, but so I just wanted to thank everybody who has put in submissions. It's really important. We had a lot of community engagement, but there were still opportunities for people to feedback, and it's really pleasing to see that people have.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Goldsworthy.
We are so fortunate with our waterways in our area, from the Murray River at Waganya up to the Hume at Huon, Kiwa area, you know, our lakes, so King, Anderson, Kerford, Samble, our dams, and they're listed in here. And there's so much to do in the Indigo Shire. Certainly places like the dredge hole at Osmond's Flat, you know, you can easily see that it needs a master plan there. Is well utilised. If we do this right, we can really open up our lakes and waterways to our community and to the broader tourism market. We know that people already come here for some interaction. We can make it even better. This is a really good start. It's something that we spoke about in our first development of our council plan, and it's finally come to fruition. So I'm really happy to see it and to adopt it. And I only want us from here, it just needs to be worked on to deliver what's in it. So congratulations to the staff for delivering it, the consultant who put it together, and the councillors for sticking it out.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to the motion? No, I'll just make a quick comment, which is early on in my council time, I went to some big local government rural council thing. I think probably Councillor Trenery, you were probably there in, I don't know, Marysville, I think it was. And there was a consultant there who said, if you have water in your communities, you have, he said it's blue gold. So in other words, any town with water attracts visitors and is really great for the communities. And as Councillor Goldsworthy said, we've got massive potential here. We've already got it here. There's an awful lot we can do with it. So yeah, it's a great plan, and I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. 11.3 is the draft Ride It, Walk It Indigo Plan 2020. And the recommendation is that council receives the draft Ride It, Walk It Indigo Plan 2020, including the Trails Project Development Assessment Tools, and places the plan on public exhibition for 45 days following the conclusion of the council election caretaker period on October 24th, 2020. So yes, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Yep, happy to move this as it is.
Okay, move as is. Anyone happy to second it? Councillor Murdoch. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Well, look, once again, this is a strategic plan which we've looked at for a number of years, wanting it to be delivered. We've had lots of advocacy from the community in relation to our walks, our rides, how we deal with horses, and we've said, look, it'll all be handled, and this is the culmination of that strategy. So it is super important. We know that we're blessed with natural assets, not only in our lakes, but in our geographic area, our hills, and some of the beautiful places you can walk around. We're also fortunate to be close to two major regional centres in Wangaratta and Wodonga and Albury, and we can attract a lot of tourists here to come and walk, to ride their mountain bikes, and to spend their money. And this, once again, it's a local boon for the community, because it'll not only better for their fitness and their well-being, getting out into the environment, but also for their future jobs, both for them and their children. So for that reason, yes, I believe it should be adopted as a recommendation stands, and it goes on public exhibition for 45 days following the conclusion of the council election caretaker period on October the 24th.
Okay, so the next council will obviously be the ones to deal with it. So thanks for that, Councillor Goldsworthy. Councillor Murdoch, do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, just a little bit. I probably don't look it, but I have walked around the Chiltern Lake probably for the last 15 or 20 years. Having the lake there and being able to walk around, I think is terrific. And having the tracks on my walks, I meet many people. Whether they're walking dogs, whether they're, it's an older person just trying to get a bit of exercise, or young kids having a great fun run around the place. And I know it doesn't just happen in Chiltern, it happens right across the Shire. And to provide these sort of places and these sort of helps to publicise what we have in this Shire, I think is a really good thing. So I well and truly recommend this strategy.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, I was the councillor on the steering committee for this, and I just really would like to thank Wendy Holland for the fantastic work she did here. I often get asked about, how can we spend so much money on consultants? But Wendy has just gone above and beyond in producing this document, and it's going to be a really valuable document for the next council. I'd also like to thank Brian Pritchard, Rachel Bohm, Mick Webster, Jill Baptist, Ricky Radsville, Joe Hunt and Maureen Rogers, who are all community members on that steering committee. And we did meet, but of course March came and COVID happened and we were Zooming. But Wendy consulted with us constantly on what the next move was. And I'd also, I think Kate Bigland too, working in consultation with Wendy, they've just done a great job. And I can go through the number of engagements there were, but it's all there. There are a lot of engagements with up to the online interactive mapping, which I thought was very clever when we couldn't get to the community to speak to them. We sent them out a map. Wendy and Kate worked out a map that people could pin drop. And I think it had the online interactive mapping with 3,152 visits. So that's a lot of engagement. And I just think it was cleverly done. So I'd just like to thank the steering committee and Wendy for the great job they've done in producing this.
Okay.
And Kate, sorry, and the staff.
So I'm sure Director Florence will pass on that. That's really great. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
I believe that part of this plan has tracks and trails on private land. I've spoken to the police about it, and I've also spoken to the CEO about it. I just wanted to make that comment, and if it was possible, I'd like that recorded in the minutes.
So sorry, just to be clear, Secretariat, Kath, are you clear about what Councillor Gaffney wanted recorded? Okay, great. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to? Oh, Councillor Price, go ahead.
Was there any intention in this strategy to go onto private land, or was this strategy based on the use of public land?
So I'll direct the question to the CEO, who may pass it on to Director Flores. CEO?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm aware of the potential land in question and reviewed the maps, and I was satisfied that the maps didn't show, certainly there's no intentionally on private land on that map, and the maps didn't show the same. So I was happy for the maps to stay as they were, but there's certainly no intention to go on private land as far as I was aware, unless Mark can tell me otherwise. So I'll just confirm with Mark.
Certainly not intended to be on public land and
private land.
Sorry, on private land, and
yeah.
That all the trails would be on public land, either in road reserves or land managed by other organisations.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So I'll just speak to that now, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
Just to congratulate everyone involved with this strategy. You can see that it has been built on a huge amount of engagement, and that it's had all of the right touch points with the community, an effective steering group, the right staff, and a consultant who loves the area that she's working in. So that's just the perfect recipe, and I hope that whoever's on the next council can achieve some of the priorities within this plan.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to it? No? Okay, I'm going to go back to Councillor Goldsworthy.
Yeah, just to reiterate that one of the great points for this was the social engagement, and as highlighted, the site for the pinpoint map was visited 3,152 times by 1,166 unique user addresses. I don't know that we've ever had that sort of engagement before. It speaks to the amount of people that walk in our community, that ride a bike and ride a horse. It's a strategy well worth supporting.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Okay, anyone against? Oh, sorry, Councillor Trenery, are you in favour or against? In fact, sorry, I missed you.
No, it's okay. I'm in favour.
In favour? Okay. So, and against? Councillor Gaffney. So, Kath, you've got Councillor Gaffney against and the rest in favour. Okay, good. Got that clear for the minutes. Excellent. Okay, item 11.4 is community grants and community event grants assessment criteria. The recommendation is that Council 1 endorses the following assessment criteria for the Indigo Shire community grants. I won't outline them. It's all there for everyone to read. So 1 is that we endorse the criteria for the community grants, and 2 is that we endorse the following assessment criteria for the community event grants. Do I have someone to move that? I've got Councillor Price and seconded by Councillor Goldsworthy. Councillor Price.
In order to be able to provide these grants to the community, we have to be able to substantiate that they've met a strict criteria, so that we can say that this money is spent appropriately, and so that we're able to really measure each of these applications against some set criteria, because we do get so many applications to these grants. For some people, aligning what they're applying for with the council plan or the municipal public health and wellbeing plan might seem a daunting task, but it's not intended to be. It's just to show that we have some values that align, and that we can see that we would naturally support the project. And if this at all seems a barrier for any of those groups, I would just say contact the council staff member who is nominated to deal with you, and they'll help you process help you through the process to apply for one of these grants. And I'd just ask a question, Madam Mayor.
Of course.
How has this process been disrupted due to COVID, and when can we expect to see these grants for 2020?
So again, I'll throw to the CEO. Do you want to answer that, CEO, or invite
Director Florence, please?
Yeah.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, through you. Yes, the normal timing of these grants has been disrupted by COVID. They would usually being assessed at this time, but because of COVID, they've been deferred and will be released to the public in late October.
Worthy, you wish to speak to this?
I mean, I dropped out. My internet dropped out for 30 seconds there.
I wondered where you disappeared to, and I'm glad to see you back.
Very good. Look, I think it's one of, particularly the second part of this, it's one of the really positive things that we did for the community as a council. We increased the grants, and for the events grants, we actually created that opportunity. So it's really important that we continue that, and that it's done in an equitable manner, and that we support the community when we're able to deliver events. So yeah, I think it's a well done to the Shire for supporting that in the budget, and I support this motion.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to it? Councillor Shepherd.
I just wanted to say it's great that we're going to be trialling the online portal. I think that's going to be an interesting aspect, and hopefully we'll streamline it even more and engage people. They won't necessarily have to go somewhere to put something in paper in. So it will help. I'm sure there'll still be opportunities for people to work with our staff if they can't do that, but it's a great thing to be trialling. So yeah, appreciate that's happening.
Okay, any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
I've got a question, perhaps the CEO or someone else could answer it. On page 89, it talks about fairness, integrity and transparency. When the committee meets to evaluate these grants, will this meeting be open to the community to ensure fairness, integrity and transparency?
CEO, do you want to answer that?
If I can throw that to Director Florence.
Sure.
Please.
Thanks, Councillor, for the question. I just need to revisit my memory about the composition of the assessment panel. It will be done predominantly by council staff. Councillors may be present there, but without being voting, but I'm not sure they'll be on the committee. It's not intended to have a member of the community there because it would be done as council adopted the assessment process. But I can check that and pass that on to council for you.
So it will be held in secret, those meetings?
So I guess it's just about a definition whether something's not public doesn't necessarily mean it's being held in secret. Like our briefings aren't public, but they're not secret. They're just not open to the public. So that's just a definitional thing. But do you need to take that on notice, Director Florence, to make sure we've got the right information about who's on that committee?
I can do that, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Gaffney, do you want to any follow-up questions on that one?
No, I just wanted that question regarding fairness, integrity and transparency. It'd be good if they were open to the applicants who go to so much trouble to put in those documents to see how they're received.
I'm trying to remember. I know we did have a conversation about this, didn't we? About what got fed back. Yeah. Okay. Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Can't see any other hands going up. I'll come back to Councillor Price.
I think any revisiting of the criteria for these grants should be seen as an attempt to make sure there is more fairness, more integrity and more transparency to a process. And so I think that's what is always the attempt of the staff and of Indigo Council. I could see that it would be difficult to discuss someone's grant application with them in the room, and the panel would need the opportunity to ask questions without fear or favour of who might be there, and they wouldn't want to be persuaded one way or the other to grant or not the funding to that person. The only other thing that I'd add is that although it's a small amount of money that we can provide to these grants, we know that for each grant we award, it's doubled or tripled, because the community group that receives it can value add with that money so much more than we can. So it's money well spent, and I'm really pleased to see we've got a really strong process and strong criteria around it.
Okay, thanks, councillor. So I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? All the hands are up. Yep. Thank you. Councillors, carried unanimously. 11.5 is the Indigo Shire Local Food Policy 2020, and the recommendation is that council adopts the Indigo Shire Local Food Policy. Do I have someone to move that? I have Councillor Goldsworthy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Goldsworthy.
We had quite some expertise work on this from the community, and it is a document which is a really good start. And I believe that given our food producing area, what we do in relation to food around restaurants and attracting tourism, it's really important that we have a local food policy. Once again, this is the delivery on an action plan that has been in our council plan for quite a while. So yes, I recommend it, and I also recognise that we could do even more in this area, and in particular around farming and supporting farmers to produce the food that we eat.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd.
Yes, again, the working group, I'd really like to thank them. So it was Peter Kenyon, who has been involved in the Northeast Local Food Strategy right from the word go. So he was on this group. Anna McKinlay from Beechworth Health, Sue Brunskill from Warragee Community Market, Jane Roots, who's Chiltern Landcare, and Guy Wilkinson from the Echo Dev, and of course Carleen Lamana. So there's, as Councillor Goldsworthy said, there's expertise there. I think it was a document that I mean it reads well, but I was after a bit more passion, I suppose, which is something we can look at in the future. Like I think our region and Indigo Shire, really, of all of Victoria, just about is celebrates food and farm gate. We need to strengthen our farm gate. We need to congratulate our vignerons and our farmers. Like there's a lot more strength to be had there, and I think this is a great beginning. And I think go on to the next council, and hopefully they will start doing some great work around food and food policy.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Price.
Yeah, I'd agree with what's been said. I think this is a good beginning, and I see that the opportunity for reviewing this policy is 2023, so that's within the next council term. And so hopefully the next council is equally as interested in this area, and perhaps they might build on the policy with a strategy and be able to do some further work in this space, because as we say, it's another real priority area for Indigo and something that we really flourish in.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All right, I'm going to, Councillor Goldsworthy, you wish to sum up?
I do. Look, we've spoken about the great place that we live, and part of that supports the great food that we get, whether it's nuts and berries or livestock or eggs or garlic. You can get it all in the Indigo Shire, and usually there's a restaurant that can make it even better or brew it into something you'd love to drink. So, look, this is an important policy. Without food, we don't do so well. So I support it wholeheartedly.
Okay, well said, Councillor. You forgot saffron. There's a lot of things here. Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And yes, thank you so much to the committee that put in the hard work and really kick-started us. I think we're one of the first local governments I noticed to actually have an actual food policy. So once again, we're in the lead head of the pack. So that's great. I'm not saying we're the only one, but the recommendation is that council awards contract PM 1908001709 to XL Grey Brunei for the Section 6 Beechworth to Yakandanda Rail Trail for the lump sum price of $553,072 excluding GST. Authorises the CEO to sign the contract documents and affix the council's common seal, and authorises the CEO financial delegation to approve contract variations up to a total of 10% of the signed contract value. Do I have someone to move this? I have Councillor Goldsworthy and Councillor Price seconding. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Well, XL Grey Brunei have built a section around Factory Lane through to the Wiruji School. They're currently building the section from the Wiruji School through to Yakandanda Turnoff, and I note that they just put a bridge down just near the Wiruji School. They know how to do it. They're working on this trail. It's just another section to be delivered. Really excited about it. I think they had the contract as well for the Osmonds Flat area. The director, Ian Ellett, might be able to correct me on that. But so far, it's been a great project. For those sections that are completed, they get a lot of use. And this is just another feather in the cap to complete this project, which James mentioned earlier. It's been long in the process, but we're getting near at the end, and it'll be good to see it finished.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Price.
It's just great to see each one of these tenders come to council, because it shows to us that this project is progressing and there are so many sections to get through, yet we've got through quite a few, and the end is in sight, hopefully. So here's another one, and if they get on with the work, it's more people that can access another section, so that's great.
Yes. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Trenery, Councillor Gaffney, and then Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Trenery.
I'd just like to say that there's obviously quite a large process that we go through and the staff go through before we award a contract of this size. That process was gone through. The right company obviously won it, which is they've done a fantastic job so far. I'd just like to add the community's getting really excited about this project. A lot of people are talking to me about the bits and pieces that have been done, and they're really looking forward to it being finished. And I just congratulate everyone involved from the start 8 years ago until now. So it's fantastic to see.
Okay, Councillor Gaffney.
This is a major project for Indigo Shire. The state government grant of $5.2 million, and Indigo Shire committed another $1 million to that. The Indigo Shire has already committed an extra $300,000 from the COVID-19 federal infrastructure grant. Just a couple of questions on notice, which I'm quite happy to hear later, is how much has been spent so far and what will the total cost be? For the last 12 months on the Finance Committee, I've said that that this project is underfunded, and I'd just like some reassurance that that there's sufficient money there. And I wonder whether Indigo Shire has asked the state government for extra funding if that's going to be needed, which it seems as if it may be. But I'm prepared to ask those questions and have a response on notice.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. So I'll send them through to the CEO to start with. How much so far, and what's the total cost?
Madam Mayor, as the council's requested to take it on notice, I'm happy to take that on notice and get a response back properly. We need to do just to summarise that for you properly.
Okay. All right, thanks. Councillor Shepherd, you wish to speak to the motion? Yes.
I do. I just wanted to remind those councillors that put their boots on and pushed our way through the Magpie Creek Reserve when it was first, Section 6 was first going to go through that area. And I just realised, looking at that cost compared to what it was going to cost and the difficulty of getting through that space, it would have required many bridges and many, it's really a great alternative to be able to go along really the old rail trail, even though it was an amazing previous plan, it would have cost so much more. So it's been great how the staff and Penny and Ian and everyone else who's working in that space have been able to start off with a plan and negotiate, collaborate and work their way to something that's going to be magnificent.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I'll go back to Councillor Goldsworthy as the mover. Do you want to sum up?
Yep. XL Grey Bruno have proved themselves to be a worthy tenderer. They came in with a very competitive price in relation to the others that tendered for it. They do a good job and they'll do it in an efficient manner. So the quicker it's done to standard, the better, because the community reaps the benefits.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. 12.2 is the Roadside Conservation Management Plan, and the recommendation is that council adopts the Roadside Conservation Management Plan 2020. Do I have someone to move that? I've lost Councillor Gaffney. Do I have someone else, anyone to move this? I'm going to go Councillor Shepherd and second Councillor Goldsworthy. Councillor Shepherd.
So this has already come to us and we've discussed it and it's gone out to community. I'm surprised we didn't get any community feedback. Maybe the community's been overstretched at the moment with COVID and all the other things, because it does cover a lot of areas around our roadsides. So I mean, the idea of it is to enhance roadside native vegetation while recognising, and I think this is important, the primary role of roads as transit corridors. The 2020 review aims to provide greater balance and alignment between biodiversity objectives and the normal uses of a road. And the other primary aim of the review was to create a more streamlined and user-friendly document, which I think this is. And there are quite a few actions around it at the end of this document that are streamlined and give people the opportunity to quickly access biodiversity and fire and all the other areas. It will make it much easier for people to find information about what activities are allowed and will allow land care groups to act as co-custodians of the roadside. So there's a whole list of great actions there, and which we've discussed at a previous council meeting. But yeah, I just thank you for all the work that has gone into this. What a huge document. And a big review. So thank you to the consultant and to the staff.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Goldsworthy, seconder, you wish to speak to it?
Yes, if you've ever flown over Victoria or even looked on Google Maps, you see how little native vegetation is left. The 1,500 kilometres of roadside that Indigo Shire controls, a lot of it does retain some of the only remnant vegetation in that area. It is really important for biodiversity that we continue to support our roadsides, and if we can rehabilitate some of them. There is the conflict of use of the roads and also firewood collection. I'd like to think that this conservation management plan strikes some balance whilst recognising the need for firewood into the future for the community.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Price.
Yeah, a really important document, and for where it's lacking in any response from the community, I do have some level of comfort with the fact that the Indigo Environment Committee has input into this plan, and they're always a great asset to have, to be able to refer a plan to a group like that, a highly skilled group that can provide so much feedback and input into the plan. They're a really important piece of the puzzle, and just to thank the people that were working in that space, in Jill Kroom and Sam Nidra and Ian Ellett. It's really comprehensive, and thank you for your work.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? So, Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to sum up? Okay. All right, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? No one against? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 12.3 is the Climate Emergency Strategic Action Plan, and the recommendation is that Council adopts the Climate Emergency Strategic Action Plan 2020. Do I have someone to move this motion? I have Councillor Goldsworthy, and I have the seconder in Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Honestly, I'm surprised there's so many shrinking violets when it comes to this. I thought James would have been jumping out of his skin to move it.
I was waiting for you, Councillor Trennery. Okay, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Look, it has been a significant bit of work. We funded it, they've delivered it. My only concerns is whether we're our net zero emissions of 2035 is not ambitious enough.
Okay. Is that it? Is that your...
That's it. We're going to do this.
Good on you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd.
I just wanted to raise one extra bit that this went out for community comment, and the one submission we did have came from a group of young people who have now formed the Indigo Shire Youth for Climate Action. And I just think it's really worth us congratulating them. Jessica Morris, Simon Gulliford and Ali Thwaites. You probably we've known those parents' names, and now it's the next generation coming up. And it was very impressive. They ran some Zoom consultation meetings with I think it was more than 30 people, young people around the Shire. Now we know we have a lot of trouble engaging youth and getting them to talk about our strategies and our policies. So well done on them at being able to engage a whole section of the community that we often have difficulty engaging. I just wondered if we could add, there was one of their sort of recommendations that I think it's probably implicit in our climate policy, but I'm just wondering whether we could add it under Section 5, mobilise and enable the community to act on climate change. They had that they would like to add, in future matters relating to climate policy, ISC will substantially engage with youth and First Nations stakeholders. And I mean, it is implied, I think, but I can't see why we can't be explicit around that area, that because we do need to often have to make an extra effort to engage them. So, and I look forward to them being involved in this space as well in the future.
Madam Mayor, as the mover of the motion, if Councillor Shepherd would like to propose something in addition that would cover that point, I'm happy to support it.
Okay. So, Councillor Shepherd, do you want that in, that Council adopts the Climate Emergency Strategic Action Plan 2020, and in addition,
yep.
And in addition, sorry, your words.
In addition, under heading 5, mobilise and enable the community to act on climate change, we add another point. In future matters relating to climate policy, ISC will substantively engage with youth and First Nations stakeholders.
Okay.
I can send that to.
I was going to say. Do you want to add all that, or can you condense it a bit and just say that we adopt the plan and make a commitment to engage with young people and First Nations people.
Well, it needs to be in the plan. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll leave you to send that through.
I mean, if the mover's happy to have it in the plan.
Yep, I am.
So I'll send it to Kath.
Okay, so it'll just be put into the plan. It's not in the motion itself.
Yep.
Well, no, it needs to be added on.
Be in the motion. I'll
I'll
come back to the CEO. Just to be clear, what do we need to do to make sure Councillor Shepherd's point is covered?
My understanding was that the recommendation was extended to add in the point that the plan will be amended to include the addition under heading 5, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So we're not just adding it to the plan, we're moving a motion to add it to the plan.
Yeah, okay. You're happy with that, mover? And Councillor Shepherd, does that meet your criteria? Yep. Kath, have you got that? Okay, thank you for that, CEO. All right, so we will now put the motion as read by the CEO. And that's been moved by Councillor Goldsworthy, seconded by Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, but have you asked for any other speakers?
That's what I'm about to do. Does anyone else wish to speak to that? No, I was just making sure I had it all right. Councillor Price.
If I can read from the conclusion, I think that says it best. This is the first step in a staged approach to addressing the climate emergency. It's deliberately succinct because it's intended to be a simple document that can clearly communicate areas of action to the community, councillors and staff alike. It's important now to conduct the more detailed work to commence the implementation of each action area and not to lose sight of this transitioning to a new council. The Climate Emergency Strategic Action Plan necessitates a cross-functional, whole-of-council responsibility for action with recognition that consistent leadership is critical, as is appropriate investment. Business as usual approaches and budgets will be insufficient to genuinely respond to the climate emergency. And just to thank the consultants who brought a lot of passion to this project and were ably supported by the staff at the council and councillors as well. I think that it was there was a lot of involvement, and as Councillor Shepherd has said, it's great to see that there's now an active youth group within the area, and I think this is something that we just continue to build on.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? For or against? Councillor Trenery.
Just beat you, Councillor Gaffney. Obviously my objections have been in the past and they're still the same. How much is it going to cost? What are we actually achieving? We don't know our footprint yet. We haven't gone through. I mean, we're saying we're going to implement this right across council. We're pretending it's going to cost $12,000. Please, it's going to cost tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And whether people think that's right, wrong or indifferent doesn't matter. We should actually have that in front of people so they can decide whether it's right, wrong or different. To say that we're going to have zero emissions by 35 and we don't know what our emissions are now is fairly extraordinary. And to say that, we can't find out whether what that's going to cost because we don't know where we're starting from or where we're meant to be finishing. We've bought an electric vehicle under the name of this already, which has obviously cost more than that amount of money. Some may say that driving down the main street in an electric vehicle and a car that others can't afford, waving at the ratepayers as they go past is probably not the most efficient way of spending this money. I do believe that global warming, and every time I say this, I get a funny reaction. I do believe in global warming. Do I think there's a climate emergency? No, I do not. Do I think council's going to make any difference whatsoever with the amount of money they're going to spend? No, I do not. It's unfortunate that we had an opportunity to probably do our footprint, have some real plans to move forwards, change things in a real honest way. But this is mainly virtue signalling, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Gaffney, did you have your hand up yet?
Yep. Back in July 2019, Councillor Goldsworthy moved a notice of motion regarding a climate emergency. I'm just wondering what that word emergency means to Councillor Goldsworthy.
Do you want to answer that, Councillor?
Means we need to take action because our the ability to combat this problem is imminent if we don't act now.
Okay. Councillor Gaffney, do you have any further comment?
Well, the Oxford Dictionary says sudden state of danger requiring immediate action. So that's what you declared 14 months ago. And I think we've progressed to just very recently buying an electric vehicle. Be very certain that I believe and am concerned about climate change. But for this council, the Indigo Shire Council, to declare a climate emergency when no other council in the Hume local government network has done the same. And we were touted as being leaders in this. Well, there's not many, well, there's none in this region following us. So I'm not sure how we lead. On page 118, it talks about convening public meetings. This was discussed in July 2019. None, to my knowledge, have been held. If you go to page 744, it says that we explore selling the Indigo Shire asset Buller Gas. Buller Gas is, as we know, not an asset, and we know that it's a high income provider. I've spoken to the CFO, and Buller Gas, if we didn't have Buller Gas, it would relate to a 5% rate increase between $500,000 and $600,000. It also states that we should explore a rate cap variation. The only reason that you would explore a rate cap variation is not to lower rates, but to increase the rates, whether that be 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. Each percentage is $100,000 per year continuous. And then it also talks about purchasing low productive cleared land. I'm not sure what that would cost, but just on exploring those, I'd like to see the results, because it's going to cost the community of Indigo Shire hundreds of thousands of dollars. Climate change is a world issue. The Australian government has not declared a climate emergency. The state government of Victoria has not declared a climate emergency. The ALP have not declared a climate emergency. The only party that has is the Greens. So I'm not sure whether we should have signs on the entry to Indigo Shire saying you are now entering a climate emergency zone, or as it used to have around Fitzroy and Collingwood, saying you are now entering a nuclear free zone. As I said, I believe and am concerned about climate change, but as for an emergency and the ratepayers of Indigo Shire paying for that, I'm against.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'm going to come back to Councillor Goldsworthy if you wish to sum up.
I'm just wondering, Councillor Gaffney's raised a number of issues there along with Councillor Trannery. The first thing I'll point to is page 742 at the last paragraph. As an important foundation for the action plan, Indigo Shire has recently embarked on a process of mapping its carbon footprint. This will result in an accurate emissions profile that will provide a baseline to develop an emissions reduction plan. So from that, you can see that despite Councillor Trannery's concerns, we are actually working on mapping our current output in relation to carbon, and also where we go from there. There are a number of actions that have already been completed, and so the recommendation, the 6 themes to embed climate emergency in council plans, to reduce Indigo Shire Council's footprint, carbon footprint, promote the environmental sustainable development, cultivate a climate change culture, mobilise and enable the community to act on climate change and collaborate and advocate. It's easy to say that we are a very small part in this and that other political parties have not decided to wake up to the issue. But statements of facts are that in our new Local Government Act, we're required to take climate change into consideration. That's now at law. So we have to do that. Many councillors have already implemented actions that are proposed by us. And so we're not doing this on our own. There are hundreds of councils across Australia and across the world that have taken up the climate emergency. And this is one way, one small cog in the wheel where we can do our bit and promote this so that we can continue to try and fight climate change. It is the issue of this generation. And if we don't tackle it, then who will?
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, well, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Okay, and against? Okay, so you've got Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Trenery against the motion, and then the other 5 councillors in favour. Kath, you've got all of that? All right, thank you. I won't go through every name, but we've got that. Thank you. Thanks, councillors. Item 12.4 is the proposed naming of roads in Beechworth. There's been a slight change to this. And CEO, yes, do you just want to confirm that change?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since the release of this report, our staff have checked in with the place names organisation in Melbourne. I always forget the name of them. Yeah. And they've advised us they're supportive of the name Foundry. This relates to dot point 1. They're supportive of the name Foundry, but they're not supportive of the use of the word lane, given the type of road that it is. They don't think it fits the description of a lane, and they're happy for us to use the term place. Ian, not if that's right. Foundry Place is what Place Names is recommending. So we'd like to just change that name in the recommendation on dot point 1, please.
Okay, thank you. So the recommendation is that Council adopts Foundry Place as the name of the extended road in Beechworth, currently partially named Victoria Street, off Bridge Road and connecting with Melledge Street, subject to a public notice being placed and further submissions being invited for 14 days and no objections being received. And then point 2 is that we defer the decision to name the new road off Albert Road in Beechworth, and note that a further report will be brought back to a future meeting which considers alternative names put forward in the submissions. And that was the road that was to be named, I think, Burke Road. There's been a fair bit of community interest in changing that name to something else, but we're not going to make that decision tonight if we go with this motion. So do I have someone to move the motion? Councillor Goldsworthy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gaffney.
So we originally put it out to the public in relation to Blacksmith. Wasn't a court, but anyway, Blacksmith Lane. And yeah, so we did receive a number of submissions in relation to it, primarily around the fact that the foundry itself was quite a significant building there, equally, if not larger than the blacksmiths, and it was significant in relation to what it could actually do. If you speak to one of the submitters to us, Robert Voigt, he spoke about it having a lathe of some 30 feet. I know that may not mean much to many, but that's a big lathe. So they actually could do a lot of work at that foundry. This name is in recognition of what went on there in the past. There's 10 housing lots that will go in there, and it's an appropriate name to have Foundry Place. And in relation to the new road off Albert Road, the submissions that were made were very good, and they spoke primarily of perhaps naming it after some of our significant women of history throughout the Stanley and Beechworth area, and I fully support that. So for that reason, I'm happy to move and support this motion.
Thanks, Councillor. Seconder, Councillor Gaffney.
I was also told about the foundry and the size of it and the importance of it to the town of Beechworth by Robert Voigt, who's a previous Shire president. I was quite fond of Blacksmith Lane as well, but he said that the blacksmith was only part of the foundry, that the foundry was the main issue there back in early days. So I support the name Foundry Place.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the people who put the submissions in, the Stanley Athenaeum and some local female historians, in their passionate plea to recognise the women of our region, and they're quite scathing. We don't need any more Burke. We've got enough Burke. So I think it's great when people do make the effort to put a submission in, and it changes what happens. So I mean, we're now going to get a report with recommendations, and I'm assuming there's going to be a woman in there. So thank you very much for submitting it.
Okay, so I'm going to put anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. Oh, Councillor Goldsworthy, you should just sum up.
Yep, I do. Just in relation to Burke, he is one of two very significant stories in the Beechworth Indigo Shire area. He's known across Australia. His name deserves to be on some of our places, but I equally support that the recommendation that we've been given is probably a better one.
So Robert O'Hara Burke we're talking about, and yes, he's well acknowledged in our shire. Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. 12.5 is the proposed opening of the road reserve at Beasley Lane, Kegunya, and I know we've had some late action on this. So the CEO, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I've emailed to all councillors basically just as we entered this meeting this afternoon that I've withdrawn this item from the agenda. Reason being that since the agenda was published, we've received a legal representation from a party that caused to question a point of law. We've been unable to seek adequate legal advice on that assertion to my satisfaction, and so I feel I'm not in a position to give you the assurance that the right processes are being followed in regards to this report that I've put up. So I feel like I have no choice other than to withdraw the report, and which I've done in writing and now verbally to this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so item 12.5 as it stands is withdrawn. Councillor Goldsworthy.
First of all, I'd like to move a motion that urgent business be moved to be considered now.
Can you just say that again? I can't.
I'd like to move a motion that urgent business of council be considered at this stage.
Okay, so I'll put that motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Trenry. So urgent business. And just to make sure we're following all the right guidelines, I have got the definition here under the new governance rules. And I'm happy to support that this motion is in keeping with the new governance rules for urgent business. It meets the criteria based on the fact that this is the last meeting of this council, and this council has requested that this matter be brought to us. So on that basis, there's no alternative other than to either withdraw it completely and leave it, or bring it to this meeting. So I'm going to rule that that's an accepted urgent business criteria. Councillor Trenner is seconding. Councillor Goldsworthy is moving it. Do I have Councillor Goldsworthy? You can speak to the motion.
Yep. So my first part of this is that I actually want to consider urgent business at this point in the meeting, and I consider that this is urgent business. We've been advocated to by both parties in relation to this, and I see that there is considerable conflict. It's been quite heated. That's involved other authorities. I believe that we should deal with it now. It was an item on the agenda, and I have an alternate motion to that which was recommended by council staff, I think that we should consider it now, given that it is the final term of council, that we have been out to the location, had a look at the environment where this road was proposed, and that we consider the item now.
Okay, so Councillor Trini, do you support the rationale for putting the motion now as urgent business, and then Councillor Goldsworthy is going to put up an alternate motion?
Yeah, I do. So, I mean, just to speak to the urgent business, I understand the CEO's position in withdrawing from the information that he's had, but I think there's more than enough information. There's a great understanding by the councillors of the situation, and I think it's appropriate for this council to make the decision.
Okay, thank you. All right, so all those in favour of hearing it as urgent business? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Okay. Unanimous. Now let's go to the alternate motion. What would you like to put, Councillor?
So the motion should read that council resolves that it is not in the public interest at this time to cancel the licence to allow for the unused road to cease being an unused road.
Okay, so it's not in the public interest. I just want to make sure Kat's got all the right words. Can you read that again, Councillor?
Okay. That council resolves that it is not in the public interest at this time to cancel the licence to allow for the unused road to cease being an unused road. I might just ask the CEO for some advice on this, or Greg Pickenham, should we mention Beasley Lane in this motion?
I think it would be wise to include Beasley Lane in the motion for completeness. Otherwise, we'll need to go back to the report to know what you're actually talking about.
No, I'm just going on a...
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I might just alter that ever so slightly.
Sure,
Say
that's fine.
That council resolves that it is not in the public interest at this time to cancel the licence to allow for the unused road
the section of unused road?
Off Beasley Lane, Kaganya. Yeah. To cease being an unused road. Does that make sense?
So it resolves that it's not in the public interest at this time.
Could I ask a question, Madam Mayor?
Just let me make sure I've got the right words, and then you can ask a question. I just want to make sure we've got it right.
At this time, to cancel the licence to allow for the unused road off the road reserve at Beasley Lane, Kaganya, to cease being an unused road.
Okay.
How's that read, CEO?
Does that make sense?
It sounded okay. I think it holds together. I prefer to see it written down, but I think it holds together.
Yeah. All right. So we'll just wait. Now, Councillor Gaffney, you had a question. Sorry, I just want to make sure we knew exactly what we're considering. Yeah, Councillor.
I'm in favour of. Well, I haven't heard the debate, but.
Well, are you seconding the motion? Are you?
No,
we haven't got to that yet.
I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, go. Sorry.
So you're saying it's not in the public interest at this time to cancel the licence. Who holds the licence?
Can I pass it on to Ian Allett to take us through the technicalities of that, Madam Mayor?
Yep.
Very confusing, yes. Good question, Councillor Gaffney. Yes, Director Ian Allett.
Yeah, thank you. So it is in the report, I think we've called it landowner A, so the one on the south side of the laneway. We haven't sort of gone into the details of the parties in the public report. So the person who was seeking to have the road opened up, so have the licence cancelled and to seek to construct a road to the rear lot.
So that's the person that actually owns the licence.
Correct.
Not the person that's actually using the land.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. So going back to you, Councillor Gaffney, do you have any further questions on that?
it's just that I believe that the person who holds the license is, I don't know what to call him. Perhaps the fence cutter.
The what?
Doesn't matter.
No.
I think the mover heard it.
No.
Yeah, it just bothers me a bit.
Councillor Sarah, okay, so I just want to make sure we're getting this right. Firstly, so Councillor Gaffney, your concern is that in the wording, the cancelling the licence, that's not quite, you're not quite clear about what that means. Is that right? Or you're not quite clear if that covers the issue?
Yes.
Right. So coming back to you, Councillor Goldsworthy, Councillor Trenner, do you want to ask another question?
Yeah, I do. Can I just ask what the consequences are of cancelling that licence? Obviously, the licence is cancelled. I think we talk about A and B in regards to the landowners. Now, there's been one landowner that's had cattle on there for 18 years. If that licence has been cancelled, that landowner that's had cattle on there for 18 years, will he still be able to run those cattle in that area?
Excuse me, Mayor. I reckon Councillor Gaffney's question needs to be answered first. I reckon Ian Ellett can answer it.
Yeah.
It's around the fact that, I'll let Ian answer it.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, could I have the question again before I have a go at answering it?
Could I just simplify it by saying the land in question should not be allowed to be opened as a road?
The motion was in legally speak on recommendation from the director.
Yeah.
However, that recommendation's been pulled because...
No, this is an alternative recommendation.
Yeah, it's an alternative recommendation. Yes, Ian Ellett, do you want to help us out here a bit?
Yeah, I'll do my best. So before the recommendation that appeared in the agenda was pulled, the wording that I circulated that Councillor Goldsworthy has just quoted from was, what's the correct wording for council to make this decision if it's not in support of the change that have been put to us.
Yeah.
And so it centres on the powers that council has under Section 407 of the Land Act.
Right.
So Section 407 of the Land Act says that if council, decides, I could read it, but if it considers it's desirable in the public interests that a licence of any unused road be cancelled, it shall inform the minister, and the minister may, after 3 months' notice, cancel the licence. So it's interesting in that the process to get it to that point would have been done in the past under a different section. This has the function of undoing that, but it's worded very differently to Section 400. So Section 400 is about declaring the road not required for public traffic. That's where council has a power, and then the licence is an issue between DELP and the landowner. So the reverse of that would seem that we would say, hey, we would like the road reused for public traffic, but the wording of Section 407 isn't that at all. It's actually council has, conformed the view that it's not in the public interests to continue to have a licence there, so it instructs the minister to that effect, and then the cancellation of the licence and the status of the road becomes a decision for the minister, not for council. So, look, I guess that's why it is what it is, and what Councillor Goldsworthy read out, with the exception of defining the section of land off Besley Lane, was the wording provided from our legal people to help land that decision in the correct context of Section 407 of the Land Act.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the way that's worded, even though it sounds a bit odd compared to what the original, it's not just a reversal of the original motion, which has since been pulled, is because of the act that you have to deal with to do that. And this has been advised by our lawyers, council's lawyers.
Yeah, and I think to try and ensure that it answers Councillor Gaffney's question, that we don't want that government road to be used as a road, have a road constructed on it, then yes, this is the decision that council would make to keep things as they are. So it remains under grazing licence, it remains as an unused road. So, you know, we therefore don't field any applications to build a road on it.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, answered your question.
James,
And Councillor Trenery, did you have follow-up questions?
Oh, listen, we can only deal with what we can deal with. I'd like to see, obviously, the licence go to the appropriate landholder, so that we're dealing with the road, so we'll deal with the road.
Okay.
Right.
All right,
If you're happy with the motion, I'd like to speak to it now.
All right, and we've got a seconder for the motion? Councillor Trenery, yes, we have. Sorry, I'm kind of losing my way here a bit. Right, go back to speak to the motion, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Okay. So the landowners that are party to the conflicting government road, or the area that's set aside as a government reserve, it's an interesting tale where one landholder has used it for a significant period to graze his cattle. The land itself is quite undulating. It has some rutted out areas. It has trees that would require a permit to remove. It is land that is prone to slippage. There's been work done there over the time by Landcare. He's looked after that land. He now finds that the neighbour has taken over the lease for that land. The neighbour wants to build a road to a block of land that's at the rear of that easement, where he could easily, there's an established road there already, he could easily put his own easement on there. And it just smacks of unfairness, and doesn't take into consideration the environment in which he wants to put a road through. I think it would be to the detriment of the local environment and the conservation values of that area if this road were to proceed. And I think it's incumbent on council to support the farmer in this case, so that he doesn't incur significant costs in trying to fight for what has been the use of his use of land for the last 16 to 18 years.
Okay, Councillor Trenery. Thanks, Councillor Goldsworthy.
So, I mean, Councillor Goldsworthy summed it up quite well. Probably just in addition to that, you know, the landholder's been there for 18 years. It hasn't been a road in those 18 years. The previous owners owned it for over 100 years, apparently, and their family members said it was never a road while them or their relatives were there. So I don't think anyone could have bought land expecting it to be a road at any stage. I do note that's been well looked after by the current landholder, and it has been grazed, but it was part of the parcel that he used to he housed 36 cattle from farms that were burnt out up north, up in the mountains, and for free he adjusted those cattle there until they could grow fodder back. So it's been well used in appropriate sort of fashion. So I congratulate the current user of that land. He's looked after it quite well. So I recommend that motion to council.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
That land is in the farming zone. It should be used for farming. It's nice, rich, fertile soil. The red gum trees that are on top of the hill could be up to or over 100 years old. There's a swamp in the middle of that land that is intact. You would not know what sort of wildlife would be in there, but to destroy that by putting a track, which is basically a driveway, would be a travesty.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd.
So I think the thing is, is it for the public that we're opening this road? Will it allow public access to a particular spot? And no, it's not. It's for one person's access to their own property, which they already have access to via a very good road that we walked and drove along. So it just does not seem right to do the environmental damage that this unused and never used road, what would have to happen there to make it accessible is going to create huge issues environmentally. And when there's already an access road running right beside it, I just can't see to what benefit it is to the public that we open that road, or we allow that road to be opened. It seems that it's detrimental to the public, really, in terms of it being an environmental loss. So I don't support that I support this motion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Price.
I can see what the landowner is trying to achieve by opening up this road to create access to a third block of land. That's not necessary. He already has access to that third block of land by way of a very good road that is his driveway. There are things that he could do to ensure that that access is maintained by way of creating an easement. Just because this is a function that is there, and just because there is an unused road reserve there, doesn't mean that it is the right thing to do to open that up to provide access. Councillors have spoken about the detrimental impact it have to the environment, and it's also a decision that's been made to disadvantage another landowner, his neighbour, when he could accommodate his needs on his own parcel of land. I'd like to thank the landowner that brought this to our attention, because it's raised this issue more broadly about road reserves right across our shire, and we've really done a lot of work now to understand where they are and how they could be used in this same manner right across the shire. And I'm sure that will be a topic of conversation for some councillors that are on the new council elected in November.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'm going to go back to Councillor Goldsworthy.
I think the councillors have nailed it. They've spoken really well to it.
Okay, I suppose it's not about entering the debate, but I'm going to vote differently, and I feel like I need to explain why. So I'm going to vote differently to the way the rest of you have spoken, because basically I don't feel I have got enough legal advice on this yet to know whether we're just going to end up in a whole lot of hot water over this, or whether it's actually really legitimate for council to make this decision on a government road. So that's my hesitation. I totally understand all the things you've said, but I don't feel that I can, support something where we could end up in court because we're just overstepping the mark on our role. So that's my concern. But yes, I do appreciate all of your arguments. So I'm going to put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Okay, so you've got against Councillor Murdoch and Councillor O'Connor, and the rest are in favour. Okay, so carried, obviously. All right, thank you, councillors. And we are now moving to item 13.1. Local Law 3 is the conduct at meetings and common seal. The recommendation is that council receives the attached submissions relating to proposed Local Law 3, conduct at meetings and common seal, thanks the submitters for their contributions and endorses the management responses related to these submissions. 2, adopts the attached local law number 3, conduct at meetings and common seal. And 3, authorises the CEO to sign and seal the documents and take all steps necessary to finalise this law. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Price. Goldsworthy.
Yep. We need a local law to regulate behaviour. We heard a submitter at the special meeting last week, and yeah, we just need to be able to control meetings when we have them. So we need to ensure that we have the local law. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Price.
And in line with the new Local Government Act and the need for governance rules, there's been some duplication between our Local Law 3 and the governance rules. And so this process has tidied that up as well to make sure there's no duplication.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Okay, no one against. Thanks, councillors. Right. Still going here. 13.2, Council Action Plan. The recommendation is that Council notes the fourth quarter 2019-20 Council Plan report. Do I have someone to move that? I've got a Councillor Shepherd to move it, and I've got a Councillor Goldsworthy to second it. Okay, Councillor Shepherd.
This is our last council action plan for our council. And it's sad that the last part for all of us really has been really difficult. Forget getting council action happening, just getting life happening for the community and our staff has been a really difficult space. So I think, as it says, the impact of COVID on a council action, on many of the council plan action items was twofold. In some cases, restrictions made it impractical to deliver the action or to conduct community engagement. And we're pretty serious on community engagement and in a meaningful way to ensure a good process. So, and secondly, the very staff necessary to deliver some of those actions had to be diverted to either bushfire emergency or to the pandemic response. So I think all things it being equal, I'd just like to congratulate us all on having any sort of action for this last part of this this action plan. And I really I can see that we have achieved well, it's 78% or so of most things in the council plan. So, you know, we haven't done too badly. So well done us.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Our council action plan was significant to start with. We set out to achieve a truckload of things, and you know what? I think we did a fair amount of it, or the staff did in particular. There was a lot of aspiration, a lot of hope, and we needed grants to get things done, and the staff delivered for us. And whilst there may be things that are not yet completed, going into the next 6 months, I reckon they'll have a fair swipe at completing those that are not yet done, and for the next council to look at it and go, you know what, they're worthy causes to follow through. So I think the council plan is something that we can be proud of as a document that's been done, won and delivered.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Okay, I'll just reiterate that I don't think I need to remind the people who might be watching this that this has been a year unlike any other in terms of council, the impact on staff, on all of us in the community. And I really want to thank the staff, particularly our CEO, Trevor, for leading the organisation and being able to still deliver the services to the quality and to the level that have happened is an absolute tribute to our staff under Trevor's leadership. So I'm going to put the motion, but I think it's really important to acknowledge just what a terrible year this has been for our community. It's not over. We've got a long way to go to recover, but I think this council has done everything it can to support our community, and I thank our staff and the teams in our council for their work. So I'm going to put this motion. All those in favour? Carried.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Could I also just say we had a discussion earlier in looking at this meeting about the size of the agenda and that there is an option for a 5-minute break if you did choose. I'm
yes.
reminding you that if anyone is inclined that we do have that option.
Yeah, we still do have a couple of items to come up in confidential as well. Would would everyone at this meeting appreciate a few minutes break, or do you want to push on through?
I'm happy to take a 5-minute break.
Okay, 5 minutes. All right, Administrator, can you just put us into a break, please, for 5 minutes, and I'll see everyone back here at 9:15. Okay. It says we're live streaming. We're back on deck. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your few minutes break. We're up to item 13.3, Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation Planning and Environment Act. The recommendation is that in the exercise of the powers conferred by Section 224 of the Local Government Act and the other legislation referred to in the attached Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation, Indigo Shire Council resolves that Rebecca Moy, Manager Planning and Statutory Services, be appointed and authorised under Section 147(4) of the Planning and Environment Act as set out in the attached instrument. The instrument of delegation comes into force immediately upon resolution of council. The instrument remains in force whilst the officer remains employed by council or until council determines to vary or revoke it. Excuse me. The instrument of appointment and authorisation under the Planning and Environment Act 1987 for Ian Scholes, former Manager of Planning and Statutory Services, be revoked, taking effect on the 2nd of October 2020. Do I have someone to move that? Thanks, Councillor Shepherd, and seconded Councillor Price. Councillor Shepherd.
Yes, this just looks like a simple act of delegation, but it's much more than that. It's a farewelling and a welcoming. And of course, the instrument of delegation is very important that we pass that. But I'd also like to take the opportunity to welcome Rebecca Moy as the new Manager of Planning and Statutory Services, and farewell our beloved Ian Scholes, who's I think has been keen to get out of here because he's been retired for a while. So he'll be happy to hand over his delegation, I think. But what a great job he's done, and we look forward to Rebecca Moy being in that space and using those delegations.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Price.
Yeah, I just agree with everything that Councillor Shepherd said, and add to that congratulations with those that were involved in finding this new person for this role, because it's notoriously a very difficult position to fill in small rural shires. So I'm pleased that we've had the cooperation of Ian Scholes as he's been exiting to help us be able to conduct a really good process to be able to appoint a new manager. So, and good luck and welcome to Rebecca.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Okay, I'm sure we all absolutely echo those words from both Councillor Shepherd and Councillor Price. So I'd like to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. And yes, farewell to Ian and thank you. I know he's going to still continue working with us for a while, and very much welcome to Rebecca. All right, so 13.4 is the appointment of the Acting Chief Executive Officer, and this is so that our current Chief Executive Officer can actually take a break for the whole of 10 days, which I think we all think is not enough, but anyway, it's a start and it's absolutely well earned. So the recommendation is that Council appoints the Director of Planning and Corporate Services, Greg Pinkerton, as Acting CEO, for the period of the 16th of September to the 25th of September inclusive, and Mr. Pinkerton be authorised to exercise all powers and authorities reposed in the position of CEO for the period of the appointment as Acting Chief Executive Officer. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Price. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Murdoch. Okay, Councillor Price.
Just hope that it can be meaningful leave for you during this time. I hope that you're able to find some separation and some differentiation between work and home, which I know is the real challenge at the moment.
The CEO did tell me that he was going to drive down the driveway to the letterbox and drive back and really explore his front yard. Okay, Councillor Murdoch.
No, I think he does deserve a well-earned rest. It's been a pretty hectic year this year. We've got all sorts of things, including the pandemic, and I'm not quite sure where he's going to go, but wherever it is, I hope he puts his feet up and rests. And it's also good for Greg Pinkerton to have a higher office, and I'm quite for the time being until the CEO gets back. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? No one's against. Great, carried. And let's not forget that, in fact, from tomorrow, you are allowed to move around the state of Victoria, I believe, from 12:01. So you might actually get further than your letterbox after all. So let's hope. All right, thank you. 13.5 is advisory committee minutes. The recommendation is that council receives the attached unconfirmed advisory committee minutes. Do I have anyone to move that? Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Seconder. I'm going to go Councillor Price. Okay. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to?
Yes. Can I just quickly speak to the IEAC minutes that are here? And I suppose the most important part of, well, one of the important parts of the meeting was that we welcomed San Nidra, who's job sharing with Jill Kroom as coordinator, co-coordinator really, of environment and sustainability. And he has extensive experience in natural resource management, and we really welcome his expertise to that role. And I suppose another action was to get our work plan organised for next year, and that meeting's been held. So I'm sure those minutes will come in the future.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Price.
I also attended this meeting held over Zoom, and with my kids in the background and one officer's children in the background as well. So thanks to them for making that work or not. And I'd just note that one of the items that was there for discussion was around current regulations for domestic cats and actions that council officers and community members may take in response to a cat at large. And we know that's an issue in local governments that's quite fraught. And so I'm happy for this committee to delve into that and perhaps lead the community in a discussion about that if they see that that might be an appropriate way forward. So I'm happy for the discussion to happen there, and thank you to that committee for all their work.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak to this? All right, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? I can't see. Councillor Gaffney, your hand. I did see. It's okay. You were just beneath your name badge. Okay. So we're now up to notices of motion. There's nothing there. The mayor's calendar diary is there. Any questions? Please feel free to ask me later. Which means we are now going to move into a confidential meeting. We have 2 items to be considered in confidential. Because of that, most people will leave the meeting now and not necessarily come back. So again, because this is the final meeting for the year, I'd like to say farewell to our community on behalf of this council and thank them for their input. We've had a lot of community engagement. We have a very, very engaged community in Indigo Shire. That makes our life quite difficult at times, let me be honest, but nevertheless, it's actually a mark of just how important the role of local government is in Indigo Shire. And so it is a great honour for all of us who are elected representatives to be councillors. And for those of us that are going to, if we return, we'll continue the work. For those of us that may not return or are definitely not returning, again, we wish you all well in our community from this council, and hope that we're starting to see a way through some of the terrible challenges we've faced this year. So wishing you all the best as we go off into confidential, and of course we don't expect you to hang around and come back at the very end just to hear the meeting being closed. So best wishes to the community. Thank you to the staff. Best wishes to my colleague councillor colleagues. And we'll have more to say afterwards, but for now I think we should say goodbye to our community. If anyone wants to add anything, feel free to do that now before we go into confidential. I'd like to move a motion that we move into confidential. Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Seconder. Okay. All those in favour? I'm glad you did that, Councillor, because I would have forgotten to put that motion. Okay, Administrator.
I'm sure you wouldn't have. You
I
wouldn't.
would have. Administrator, let's put us into confidential. I so would have. Hello?
Hello.
Madam Mayor, we're just organising the transition now, so we're in the live stream area. Might be best to just mute, and we'll be back into a confidential session shortly.
Is anyone else there yet?
83 or something.
Hello.
Didn't give us any warning. We're suddenly here.
Where's Jenny?
So we've come back and basically we're closing the meeting. So I'm going to say farewell and close the meeting. Cheers.
Farewell.
So Administrator, close the meeting. Thank you.